Better late.
Bob call me kettle black. We'll give you a few seconds to get rid of your coat.
But what in my computer doesn't think.
I'd like to call our regular council meeting of March 14th, 2023 to order. The Township of Black River Malison acknowledges the Abitibi and the Sanipic Nation traditional territory. We live, play, and work here together, and together we shall build a strong and inclusive community. And also just a small reminder to all in attendance that our council meetings are recorded and made available to the public on the township website for review. And of course, they're being live streamed. Yes, we have we need to move in a second. We got Brewer and Councillor Gadry.
It was moved by Councillor.
Sorry, yeah, that's it.
Moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor Gadry, that the agenda for the regular council meeting of March 14th, 2023 be approved as printed.
All those in favor? Being no objections, carried. And number 3, anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest and or general nature thereof? Hearing none, seeing none. Item 4 is the adoption of minutes. I need to move in second. I have Councillor Rondo and Councillor DeMarchi.
Moved by Councillor Rondo, seconded by Councillor DeMarchi, that the following minutes are hereby adopted. Minutes of a regular council meeting held on February 28th, 2023.
All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Next item is item 5 is the consent agenda.
I need to move on a seconder.
Councillor Gadry and Councillor Brewer.
Moved by Councillor Gadry, seconded by Councillor Drewer, be it resolved that the consent agenda items as listed on the March 14th, 2023 council agenda be received as the motions contained therein be approved and recorded as listed below.
Any questions or concerns regarding those reports? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Seeing no objection, carried.
Well, this is no good. I don't even have audio.
So item 3 is Raymar and Zalaguni.
Yeah, it's coming from the evening.
So 5B, Raymar and Zalaguni, DWS.
So that's part of your
Oh, that's part of it? It's still part of it, okay.
So you're actually at 6.
Okay, so we've got all the consent stuff covered. Okay, missed that. Thank you. We're gonna move on to item 6A under delegations. And I'd like to welcome Craig Fuller from the M&R. And we'll give Mr. Fuller the floor. Is anybody else joining us by Zoom? Craig?
There should be others joining from Zoom.
I
I think Sean.
Maybe that's
all you're hearing from the speaker.
I think you said Sean was on. Yeah, Sean's here. You can yours as well. Okay. Well, yeah, thanks.
Floor is yours, Craig. Thank you.
Well, thank you too. And thanks for Chris for reaching out and getting this organized. I know it's after last fall, there's a lot of, I don't know, misinterpretation, misconceptions, and then relative people not knowing how the whole water management aspect of around here works. But before we get into that, actually, can we do, I don't know if Sean's on, if maybe we'll just do a round table, just to try and get to know people. If you don't mind. Myself, well, I'll start with myself, Craig Fuller. I'm my current position is resource management coordinator, and I work for the new Timmins Kirkland Lake district. So I cover both Timmins and Kirkland Lake.
Thank you, Craig. Councilor Markey.
Councillor Dan Markey. I'm the councillor for Ward 4, which Shillington area.
Louise Gannery, I'm councillor for Ward 5, which is Valgrind.
Okay.
Kim Drew, Ward 6, Raymond.
And I will be in the middle. Markey.
Oh, I'm Hunter Lee, I'm the executive assistant for the township.
I'm Cassandra Child, I'm the clerk treasurer for the township.
And I'm Doug Bender. I'm the mayor of the township.
Chris Ray, chief administrative officer.
Chantal Rondo, council for Ward 1, which is Hall Highland.
Dave Diamond, Ward 3, the side of the tracks.
And Sean, if you want to introduce yourself. Are you there, Sean?
He's not,
Unmuted.
Oh, no.
Mute.
no, he's not, he can speak.
Well, maybe we'll just move on then.
Sure.
There's no one else that came?
No.
Not yet. Okay, at least it wasn't too sure. She's other engagements though. So this is new. This is as of last fall. The ministry went through a whole process called Rod Forward, and they started merging some districts together to try and consolidate things. So what they went and did was they took what was historically the old Kirkland Lake Ministry of Natural Resources District and Timmins, merged them into one. Although they are still one, it's one district within the ministry, we still operate the two work centers. They're called work centers now. So there's the Kirkland Lake Work Center and the Timmins Work Center. But there's some positions like myself and the supervisors and the district manager that kind of cover the entire area. So, and then if you go to the next slide, I've also provided Hanji with a copy of, this is the staff directory for both Timmins and Kirkland Lake. And it also goes in, like, it once, doesn't show up very well on the overhead, but you can go in and you'll see people's names, contact information, as well as your area of focus. So if you have concerns or questions regarding fish and wildlife, forestry, lands questions, it's all listed in there. And even if you don't know, I'm gonna throw it out there that my phone's always open. I've been in Kirkland Lake since '99, working for the ministry, so I'm pretty well versed in most of what goes on. So if you don't know who to call me. I can direct you a lot faster than you could otherwise. So, and then getting into one of the whole reasons why I'm here is the water management aspect of things and concerns that were raised over last fall, and that even just moving forward with how it goes about. So on the next slide, so this up here, this is Waterville Lake and the Waterville Lake Dam. That's our ministry's only dam in Kirkland Lake and Timmins that we control. There's also another one in Cochrane that they control. It's hard to make out on there, but. So all these dams, like all the river systems and stuff that feed into this Abitibi River, they're all managed under the Abitibi River Water Management Plan. So back in 2002, it was, yeah, the water management plan was brought forward. There was a 5-year review of the plan, so it went through public consultation, First Nations for 5 years until it was finally approved in 2006. And with this plan, it sets the kind of the guiding principles for how everyone who has dams on this system operates, and gives us rules and regulations to follow, bans to keep them within certain times of the year and stuff. And yeah, so it's funny because like you see the Waterbeck Lake way up here and there's a drop. By the time it gets to just kind of north of town here, there's a drop of about 70 meters. So it's a fairly fast moving system, you'd say, whereas compared to down here is the Black River. And along the same stretch as the Waterbeck, as it maybe drops 5 or 10 meters, so it's a relatively slower moving system, so there tends to be a little bit more issues and stuff with the Waterbeck. The Waterbeck River moves fast and things happen faster. So, and if we go to the next slide, it's so this is the based on the environmental assessment that was done for the Waterbeck Lake Dam. These are the operation boundaries that we are bound by. So this goes right from start of the year, January to December, and this is the summer operating dam, they call it. So this is the dam that we need to stay in during the summer months. And that's mainly for recreational purposes on Waterbeck. And then once we get out of the summer events, it's like Thanksgiving weekend, where we start drawing down to start making room when the spring freshet comes. So there's room in a lot of big lakes, all the water, the snow melt and rain, everything that comes in the spring doesn't all go directly right back into the system and it's stored in Waterbeck Lake. So it's kind of a mitigating effect. And during our drawdown, there's we have restrictions put on place, especially from October to the end of the year, because Waterbeck Lake is a natural richer lake, and they spawn in the fall, so they have to. It's a slower drawdown just to ensure that the fry have time to hatch and get off the shoals. So and then we start dropping the water more to make the additional room. And then for the next slide, this is kind of gives you an overview of like water management that kind of happens in this general area. And everyone uses the word dams, like the Waterbeck Lake Dam, but like technically speaking, they're in essence they're not dams, they're classed as water control structures, because beavers dam stuff up. We get water control structures, we never completely block the flow of water. And this was back when these assessments were done on Waterbeck Dam. They do these graphs and stuff to show what the possible effects could be. So they use, for these ones here, they use the Timmins storm from back in 1961. Typically they use like 100-year flood events kind of thing, but they found that with that Timmins storm from 61, it was more than the 100-year flood event could have been. So they kind of use that as like a reference point. So on this graph, it shows here's the pink line shows the inflows based off the rain, and what the blue line shows is what the outflow of the dam would have been with no logs in place. So as you can see, it would what the water control structures dams do is they'll take the peaks out and they'll stretch it out over a longer period of time, so you don't get those sudden impacts of water all at once. So it kind of mitigates the high initial flows, but it'll stretch them out over a longer period of time. And this, if you can just maybe move that down just a sec. And this right here is this is the Timmins climate station. There's climate stations set up all over the place that we have access to that we can monitor and stuff. And this just shows this is like it starts in 2000, 2001, 2002, and this was 2022, sorry, this is last fall. So like we try the best to manage that we can, but what ended up happening last November is like the month leading up to that rain event that happened like the first week of November is that we had like 30s and 40s like throughout September, October. So what ended up happening was we get all these big rain events like back to back to back, it saturates the ground. And then what ended up happening was the ground was so saturated and like the flows were still very high coming into the system, then we get this huge dump. And the ground no longer has the ability to soak anything up and it all just gets flushed into the system. We ended up doing like Waterway itself. You were in there a week before, we ended up dropping some water early to create more storage. So when we did get this large peak of rain, a lot of the rain that came in the Waterway lake area, so down here in this, these are the 3 watersheds. We're able to store in the lakes. Not a lot went into the river itself. But so we're up here in Matheson. This is so what Matheson deals with is 2,068 square kilometers of watershed that all flows into the Black River just north of town. Waterway Lake itself only provides 216 square kilometers, and once the waterway gets to the point where it reaches the Black River again, it's 548 square kilometers of drainage area that gets soaked into that. So, and then I think there's 2 more slides. Yeah, go to the previous one there. Yeah. Yeah, so throughout the year, like we're always monitoring and checking things out. Currently, we're in our kind of our winter monitoring stage where we actually run what are called snow check stations. So we go out, the guys go out every week, measure snow depth, but they're also weighing the snow. So you weigh the snow and it lets you know how much water is actually in the snow, so you can kind of plan ahead for spring. So there's sometimes you'll have a meter of snow, but there won't be much water in it. Whereas if you get that compact snow, there'll be more water. So these are some of the charts and stuff that are prepared by Surface Water Monitoring Center in Peterborough. So then we can kind of gauge as to, this is like one piece that we can use to kind of gauge as to what the spring is going to be and what kind of flows we're going to see. And then these graph on the bottom are our snow check stations, and these are just depth of the snow. So the black lines are this year. So far this year we are below average snow depth, which most people are probably pretty aware of compared to some of the peaks and stuff that we've had. I think this was like 2020. We had a lot of snow, but these are great, but it's only one piece of kind of planning for spring freshet because it's kind of all comes down to what the weather does. Like snow melts are always good for this kind of stuff because the water goes into the system slower, whereas you get those warm weather spells and lots of rain, and then a lot of the snow goes into the system faster. And then with us going into the winter with saturated grounds, a lot of this runoff, if it comes quick, is not going to get absorbed in the ground and go straight to the water system. So there are all kinds of little pieces and stuff that we use, and it's also available to anyone that wants to look at it. So if there's anyone that has an interest in getting access to it, I don't know who is your, I guess your emergency coordinator person, but for yourself, Chris, but yeah, so and then the other thing I wanted to mention too, is I know I was talking with Chris earlier about this, and I sent a message, and that's where I was this afternoon, was we actually had the Abitibi River Water Management Plan and Standing Advisory Committee meeting this afternoon. So what it is, it's a committee made up of First Nations, public, whoever wants to be there, and along with all the operators are there as well. So like myself, from the ministry, there's like OPG, Liberty Power, H2O Power, all the guys that have operations on the Abitibi system are all sitting there. So, and for years it was like back when the plan was first implemented, there was a lot of beneficial discussions and stuff that came out of those meetings. And I got to the point where after the implementation, there was this big surge of stuff that was happening and it kind of died off. And that was for the past couple of years. You know, it's been slow. People left the committee and stuff. And right now they're in a rebuilding phase. And after that meeting today, I think there's a lot of benefit if a committee member from the council wanted to sit on that, because the discussions were around today was some of the stuff that Chris had mentioned before, like agricultural land, like. With the increase in agricultural land, they were asking, well, is there increasing nutrients and methyl mercury and stuff entering the systems and water quality and all that kind of stuff, so. I think it's a good opportunity if anyone's interested in joining up for sure. Because they are OPG and H2O Power are the chair people for that meeting. They're gonna start a recruitment soon to try and get more people on. I know there's only a limited number of seats on that committee, but if you guys can get in before all that happens, it might benefit you guys.
So, Craig, sorry to interrupt you.
Well, no problem, no.
When I was in the law, we had the municipal power, whatever. So. So in a situation where we're faced with some extreme change, one as Craig's already said, increasing agricultural land, but. And it's not as easy to bring back the agricultural land of existing fitness, because since then it's been that effect with climate change, and that's going to affect us as well. I think it's really important that this college brings to that table. If there's nothing more, you can garner the information out of them. That's our community.
Well, for sure, yeah, and that's it, and then, so the plan put in place today is that. The M&R office in Berkeley and Cochrane, they're gonna lead up and they're gonna source out some, whether it's MOECP. And get them to come in and do a presentation on methyl mercury, or they're gonna get the broad scale crew out of Timmins that does all the fish sampling across Ontario. They're gonna come in and do a presentation on mercury levels in fish and stuff, so. There's a lot of important information that comes out of that, that I think would be a benefit to this, to the council, for sure. And then as well as that. Since all these dams are part of the water management plan, if at any time we go outside of those regulated boundaries. As listed, like that's like the water bag, if I go upper or below those bands, I have to submit a non-compliance report within 24 hours. And then all those reports get sent out to all the members of the advisory committee, so. If there's anything happening on the Abitibi River system, then everyone on the committee gets a notice within like 24 to 48 hours as to what's going on, what's being done, and stuff like that. So. And then the last slide is just probably familiar with this kind of stuff. This is like the emergency response structure, so just kind of lays out what to do if municipality decides to declare emergency. And I know this is for the most part, like what we experienced last fall, like you wouldn't want to call the provincial emergency operations center and do that, but like I know in discussions we had with Chris and myself and like Zeddy and Mike made that commitment that outside of this, the ministry is willing to aid any way we can. He even made the promise to Chris to like have a storage of sandbanks here, just in case, just enough to get things rolling, so you don't have to go Timmins, Kirkland Lakes over here on site. And then if anyone from the municipality has any issues with flooding and high water, then they're there and ready to use, and then we can just replenish them whenever. So, yeah, and that's all I had for the presentation. I don't know if Sean is able to get back on now, or if he's still.
Yes, it's my phones.
Oh, is it? Well, but yeah, so is there?
Thank you very much for that presentation. It was very, very informative, and I'm sure that council, at least one or two councils might have a couple of questions.
Well, for sure.
And I'll open the floor through the chair for each councillor that would like to speak on. Why don't we just do it in order? Councillor Markey?
Good start. Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship. The ward that got flooded, you
Yeah.
obviously heard about that.
Well, yeah, for sure. I know Mike's
Royer
been-
and Janet from West.
Yep.
I don't even know where to start with that, but shouldn't there have been an incident report done on that?
But
Right
well, if there wasn't like and that's it. Like the incident happened within the municipality.
Yeah.
The cause of the incident wasn't in the direct Like it wasn't
It was a combination.
wasn't caused by the operations of the dam. Like we tried to explain it, like we mitigated what could have potentially been a far worse scenario by lowering the levels earlier in the week to make room for the rain that was coming. Well, if we had not done that and made that room, all the rain that came in, because we were already so close to the top of the weir, there's an associated weir beside that dam, all the rain water would have gone just straight over the weir. And the levels and the flows downstream would have been a lot worse. So we went in early, to make room and to mitigate the effects. And that's why during that rain event, we were able to store, I think it went up 6 to 7 centimeters. We were able to store all that water in Waterville Lake and not send it down. And like the graph showed earlier, we were able to extend. There was higher flows, but not high peak flows for a week after. And that's what we've been trying to explain, but
Yeah, what they're saying to me is like, I don't know about how long Albert's been there, but Janet's been there for like 30 years. And
Yeah.
This was the first time they had an issue with the flooding in her property, apparently.
but
I'm just telling you what I've been doing.
well, yeah, I know what you've been told, but like I know I've been dealing with Mike and through Albert and Jan for the past little while, so I actually went back and I dug up the old the dam safety assessments that were done even back when OBG, because OBG had that dam before we took it over. And in those documents, there is reports of we are aware, like they were aware of historical flooding downstream at one, because at the time there was only the one private property directly on the river.
Brian.
Yeah, it's going back on Ryan had it, exactly. And that's all documented in there, and the concern is because high water had already been reported on these spots. So I understand that it might seem like it's, because it may not happen for 10 years, like in between, and they think everything's good, but when you get into a situation like last fall, like the drainage area around below the dam is larger than the drainage area above the dam, and we were able to control the water coming out from above the dam to below 10 cubic meters per second. Whereas everything below the dam just all floods in. We have no control over that. So it's not directly related to our operations. It's related, yeah.
There's other tributaries flowing into the
Well,
river.
exactly. And like in the meeting today, like H2O Power and Liberty Power, they have the dams just north of where the Black River flows into their operations, and they actually record like the flows into the system. So to put it into perspective, like last spring, which is typically the highest flows of the year, they recorded 720 cubic meters per second coming from the Black River into the generating stations. Last fall in November during that rainstorm, because all the water was just flowing directly in, they reported the highest recorded amount we've ever had in the fall at 950 cubic meters per second. That was flowing, so.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Councilor DeMarchi. And
What-
Councilor, I've got a lot left. The rest of the council have their chance, and we'll come back to you,
Yeah.
Councilor DeMarchi. How's that? Councilor Gatter, question?
I don't have anything right
Councilor
now.
Burr? Councilor Bannon?
Nothing yet. I'm just following Dan's lead.
I have a couple of my own, but I'm gonna let Councilor DeMarchi go ahead.
Yeah.
The river, like the river system itself, when OPG did it. Again, I'm talking what I've been told.
Yeah.
But the river was fairly clear. Is there anybody that, are you guys responsible, M&R, are they responsible for the river system as far as logs being dropped in the river and this type of thing?
No,
The beaver dams all the way through there now.
well, exactly. And then if you look at the air photography, there's like numerous spots along there, just because of the soil too. It's clay, sand. There's lots like, and it's an oxbow, like, so it's. The river itself is trying to go straight, but it's taken the path of least resistance. So that's why you get all those slumps. And if you look on the air photography, there's all kinds of spots where it's already cut off. Like fingers and maybe lions, and it's
Right at Albert's front. Yes, it's a
Wow.
dead tree, whatever that's sticking out, and it's causing the water to wash away the bank.
Well,
Which
and then
eventually it's gonna wash away the road.
yeah, they're in a tricky spot too, because they're like a double bend in the river.
Yeah.
Because the river comes in straight to their property, does an S.
Yeah.
And then right after it narrows. And then goes straight again. So what ends up happening is you get all this water coming down 70 feet, like it's fast moving.
Venturi do.
Yeah, and it hits that double S bend. It slows down already, and then it starts going around the corner where the river narrows again, so it's like a double effect. So what it does is it starts backing up slowly, then it just goes over that little point there that they have. And it's,
Yeah.
ideally speaking, it'd be nice if it didn't happen, but it's
Yeah,
it's a tough situation. for
yeah,
sure.
washed away his garden, and washed away his.
Just one comment on my own, and it's actually not even really a question, because my question is gonna be around what you've already basically explained, is that you've actually managed to reduce the flow, like the flow at that, during that exact period when that major rainfall happened, basically down to as low as can be expected for that event. So actually, it was all the rainfall in the rest of the catchment area that really did.
A lot of it, yes. Yes, there was some of the water from Waterbank that was coming down, but most of that inflow was that larger watershed just below.
And it's happening during the time of year when you're actually aren't in an impact situation for the lake itself, where you basically do whatever has to be done to make things work.
Exactly.
That's great. Thanks, Councilor Markey. One more question.
One more. Is there an emergency number that they can have so that if something is happening? Like when that happened, he had pails of oil and stuff like that all there. He had to put hip waders on to go rescue his oil. And stuff.
Well, exactly, and I know we've had
There
this.
should be a response number that they can get a hold of somebody and say, hey, we're sinking.
Yeah, but they, well, I know we've had these conversations with Chris, myself, and Mike, is that since they're located within the municipality of Black River Matheson, their first call should be
To us.
to you guys, because you guys are the first. Like on that chart, like if there's a resident in the municipality that has an emergency situation, they are to call you first. That is supposed to be their first, and that's what we asked them when, so we didn't get the calls until the day after, and we asked them like if they had called, if it was an emergency, they should have called the OPP first. And then since it was in the municipality, they should have called whoever on council is responsible for that. Mind you, if we would have got the call from the municipality that a system was required, we could have for sure gone out, but that never happened. And that's one of the things we were trying to work through. Yeah.
Is there any other councilors that have any questions yet? If not, then I'll allow Councilor DeMarchi another one, because this is what we're here for.
Hey,
Through your worship, I got one for Chris. Is there a way we can get an emergency response list made up and presented to those people so that they have somebody to call? You know who to call?
So
Starting with the OPB.
yeah, so our emergency plan only calls for a contact list in the case of a declared emergency. Having said that, the two lists would like to be very similar. So we could probably come up with something. I don't have a problem. I mean, it's about the safety of our residents. So yeah, sure.
well, and also in our correspondence with Albert and Janet too, like we've told them like time and time, like we'll provide you notification when operations are done at the dam, like, and then that goes for the council too, like if you guys want to know, like it's my personal opinion, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference, but we've offered that up to Janet and Albert already. And to, you know, if we're gonna be in there doing operations with the dam, we'll let you know. So it was kind of funny because after November, like we went and set the dam, like after that, when the initial downpouring stuff, we didn't touch the dam again, we haven't touched it since. And it was funny because then Janet called me in started December, I said into an OPG meeting down in Cobalt. And then she calls and said, what's going on? What are you guys doing to the dam? I said, we haven't touched the dam in a month. Because she was experiencing high water again down at her place. And I had absolutely nothing to do with anything that's all. That was the start of December. So
So the other thing I might add to that list is that their residents have to understand what the municipal role is. So we wouldn't normally respond to something like that. We've got people who live in Black River Matheson in the spring. need to come from their house and take a boat in order to get to a road that's traveled. So if we're gonna do things like that, then we have to be respectful and be able to somehow that serves everything else. But I do think it's important that people have the program emergency numbers for them in circumstances that are not of emergency, because if there be somebody whatever that has an issue where nobody else in this county has to, we should have those numbers.
Yeah, no problem.
Is there anyone else with any other questions? Further question? No further questions. And Craig, any further comments?
I know Sean was gonna speak to it a little bit on this thing. I'm sorry, can't get on, but I know one of the questions that was asked when Chris was first inquiring this was about the increase in agricultural land and stuff. And I wasn't too sure what the context was, because I know we've been getting applications for crown land for agricultural purposes, so people are applying to purchase more crown land for the sole purpose of agriculture. And he was gonna kind of, a lot of those applications are kind of on hold right now due to First Nation concerns and stuff, but. And on the other hand, like there is inherently that risk that if anything with the increase in farmland, you're gonna get increased runoff, and especially if it's tiled, all of that kind of stuff for involvement. And I know that was one of the topics that's brought up at that advisory committee meeting. That's one of their concerns. It's got a couple of guys from Matheson and Hawken that sit on that advisory committee, and that was their concerns.
Yeah, I know that Minister Thompson from African, and she's got the big push on to expand the agricultural land in this area, simply because of the historic farms that the area fits.
Yeah.
Which frankly, I think it's a good thing, but she said that she has to talk to him because it all has to work. The release of crown land can take anywhere from 12 months to 6 years, depending on what kind of hurdles you're going to. And so from that perspective, the two ministries need to understand that there's a role played in local in this county too, particularly as I mentioned with climate change. That forefront as well, because more tiled land needs more runoff, and it needs more municipal drainage, which means more municipal involvement, which means problems. So I think that was the purpose of the discussion. Yeah, Greg and I certainly want to build a better relationship with them, a good relationship with them, so that we can work together and not first involved in this. There's other things too.
Well, exactly, and that's the other thing I was gonna offer, right? Just getting these little flashes in my mind, but yeah, because we send out all that snow data and stuff to whoever wants it, kind of thing, and it's a good tool to have, like especially for your municipal infrastructure, especially if you're having roads and stuff washed out. It's a good thing to have in your pre-planning phase. But yeah, and that's it. Any questions come out of this meeting, by all means, reach out to me, and I can reach out to Sean and whoever. And
Definitely a really good start just by you taking the time out of your busy role in life to come and present council with the information and answer not everybody's concerns, everybody's questions, but answer a lot of them. At least gives us information to work with.
well, for sure, that's what's all like, and that's I enjoy this kind of stuff. Like it's could have done this, like it's the face-to-face stuff, getting to know people, and then working through stuff like before it gets blown out of portion and stuff. It's nice just to sit down and have a meaningful conversation.
Is there any further questions from council? Everybody's, yes, Calvin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm wondering if we can get that slideshow presentation sent to us so we can decide the hieroglyphics later on.
Yeah.
And also, what was the name of that committee you suggested that we?
It's the Abitibi River Water Management Plan Standing Advisory.
And I believe Chris is already on.
Chris,
there, and we were gonna.
Yeah, we should, my recommendation would be a council member that would sit on that. And we just simply need to pass a resolution, myself, and get our information to.
And the commitment's not huge, like they try and meet 2-3 times a year. We have one today, and then we'll have another one probably in the fall, early fall, or maybe have one depending on circumstances. And then besides that, then you at least get all the information in between with regards to compliance reports, because every year, every dam owner on that system has to submit a yearly compliance report too, from all the compliance issues from the previous year, so you'll get all that information too, so it's.
Oh, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Greg. Appreciate that input, and I'm sure on behalf of council, I'm sure if we need you again, we'll bug you again, and I know, and between myself and Chris, we do have your contact information.
Well, for sure.
And once council has decided on who would be interested in sitting on that committee, then we can forward that back through to you, Craig.
Yeah, send it to me and then I can get it into PG&E short power and then we can.
Perfect.
But yeah, and that's it, man. And that, I know this is like mainly around flooding, high water and stuff, but if there's any other concerns, issues that are starting to, that you see in the conflict, whether it's lands, fish and all that, just let me know and I can probably arrange for those matter experts to come and do something similar to what I did and just lay everything out on the table, just so everyone's got the information.
That's great. Thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you. You're welcome.
And I'm sure you probably have other places and things you want to do. You're more than welcome to sit here and listen to us.
Well, I don't want to be rude, but I might be rude then.
Well, and I think you definitely probably want to hit the road again. So thank you very, very much on behalf of council and the township for that presentation.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be in touch. Thank you, Craig. I was just gonna say, suggest the council through, I was asking Chris a question. And I think, I don't think it's a big panic since it's gonna be well before that committee meets again. But everybody can put the thinking caps on, decide who's interested in sitting in that committee and maybe at the next meeting. At the next. No, we're gonna do it at the next meeting. We'll put something on the next agenda. And then we'll have a resolution in place and we'll point them. Wait. Fair enough? Okay, let's just keep moving. I promised somebody a 10-minute meeting. I don't think I'm gonna make it. And then we also have another delegation, is that correct?
They are here, yes. Yes, so you have, Paul Shiling.
Very good. Good evening, Paul.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine, Paul. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you. So good evening, your worship and members of council. I guess I was thinking of the last time we presented a delegation to Black River Matheson was probably about 6 years ago. So I guess that's a good thing. And we're here tonight, so thank you for the opportunity to present. As you know, the mixed group of health services provides healthcare services for Matheson, Niagara Falls, and Cochrane. We've already approached the town of Cochrane and Niagara Falls on a physician incentive package, and that's why we're here tonight. So I just want to give you a little bit of an update, and I'm just reading from slides. I don't actually want to share the slides, but I can give you that later. Just want to give you a bit of an update. First of all, I should introduce, I have Oswald Silverson, who's the BMH board chair, and I have Sylvie Lavoie-Girard, who's the chief human resource officer at the mixed group of health services. So just want to give you a bit of a medical staff update. Presently, we have one full-time family physician serving our primary care needs and ER needs for Matheson, and Dr. Alan Bocher, as you know, and he's told us he's moving to a part-time position come June 2023. Bingham also has a part-time locum family physician providing 3 to 5 primary care office days for orphan patients only. And his contract, I'm happy to announce that, has been extended to August of 2024. That's Dr. Donovan Gray. And he's just signed for an additional year for a couple of reasons. One is the tenacity of Sylvie Lavoie-Girard, who enticed him to stay on, and also, of course, the lucrative incentive packages that we offer at the hospital. The emergency on-call services are provided by both Dr. Bocher and Dr. Gray and other local physicians So we remain open 24/7. So come June 2023, we will have 2 fly-in physicians serving Black River Matheson. Personally, I believe that the town of Black River Matheson deserves better. Now, that all said, they will provide primary care services when they're in town. So the next, I want to talk about community support. We have a collaborative partnership with the municipality as a vital component in successful recruitment and retention for all the physicians. It's not just a hospital issue. It's a community issue. It's important to note that the hospital does not receive any funding whatsoever to assist in physician recruitment. It's on our own dime, and we attend physician conferences or recruitment fairs. But the money is coming dry. But it's time to. It's not just a hospital function. To remain competitive and to entice physicians to choose the mixed communities over all communities vying for their services requires full community support and, of course, financial assistance. And we see this at the recruitment fairs. Historically, the hospital has taken on this lead to coordinate the recruitment effort, but this is an adequate practice. We just can't do this anymore. We're looking at fulfilling our needs for the hospital and our emergency department. But in terms of primary care, we really believe it's community responsibility. Although it does benefit the hospital, of course. Given the recruitment landscape has changed significantly over the past few years, the mixed group health services needs to consider changing the physician practice model to recruit physicians to the area. Local communities have been approached to develop a recruitment incentive package specifically geared to recruiting primary care physicians only. As I mentioned, we've already met with the town of Miracle Falls and Cochrane, and they're already on board. They're providing incentive packages for primary care physicians only. The hospital continues to develop offer incentive packages for emergency room physicians. I can tell you this is almost about $100,000 per year, hence why Dr. Gray has stayed on for another year. The hospital will continue to provide incentive packages for physicians willing to work in primary care and ER. But these, again, based on our experience in recruitment fairs, and Sylvie can attest to this, these physicians are very difficult to come by. Most physicians now, the new grads, they want to either work in an ER or they just want to work in a primary care clinic Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Again, having a primary care physician benefits the hospital, but really we need to have our physicians working in ER and our inpatients. I think I can't believe I'm almost at the end, but in summary, we need to recruit a primary care physician now. On average, it takes about 9 to 12 months to recruit one. The municipality, the Black River Matheson municipality, needs to invest in a primary care incentive package. I don't have to explain to you why it's important to have a primary care physician in our community. But the good news is this. We believe that Black River or BMH or Bingham Memorial Hospital has a leading advantage over other communities. You're close to Timmins, and from what we understand from physicians that we see coming to our recruitment fairs, they want to come close to a big city. You're close to North Bay. The volumes are lower and manageable in Matheson. It's a very clean hospital and a very nice hospital, and we have great staff. Well, unless I miss another slide, but I think we didn't come for an ask. What we came here tonight is just basically to plant a seed that the town of Black River Matheson has to invest in a primary care physician. June 2024 is, that's when Dr. Gray is going to stay till, but we would like to have a physician, and I think you all need to have a physician, a primary care physician in our community. So you look at other communities like Marathon and Arnprior and Renfrew and even I think it was, well, there's a number, Kirkland Lake, I believe, and Hanover. They've engaged with their municipalities to provide that package. So I will stop there. And I understand I'm the only one speaking, but I'm sure Sylvie and Ozzy could step in, but I'll just take questions. And I certainly hope you can hear me all that time.
Thank you very much for that presentation, Paul, and I don't know if the chair, Ozzy or Sylvia, had anything to add? If not, I was just gonna open the floor for some questions from some councilors. Ozzy, Sylvia, anything? Nothing? Okay, well then, councilors, are there questions? Councilor DeMarco.
Through your worship. Just a question on nurse practitioners. What are the chances of recruiting nurse practitioners to Knoxville?
Sorry, I think I couldn't. I think you out, or I missed the question. Can you hear me?
We lost you for a second there, Paul. You want to repeat that, please?
Did I lose connection here?
So you're frozen a little bit, Paul. I can jump in though.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
So in terms of a nurse practitioner, it does not replace the doctor. So we are currently trying to find a nurse practitioner who will work at both South Centennial Manor and Rosedale Center under a new long-term care nurse practitioner, which is funding that the ministry is going to provide. It's not funding again that the hospital has. For Matheson, you really need to have a physician. Keeping in mind that you're putting yourself in a very precarious position, having two physicians who are basically going to be living out of province, flying in and out. And we all know that travel is becoming problematic with flights being canceled right, left, and center, rental cars not being available, etc. So a nurse practitioner is part of that solution, and we're very much hoping to recruit that position, but it simply doesn't help us from an emerge or primary care. It won't help in primary care because that nurse practitioner has to work under a doctor anyways. They have to work under that license. Does that help?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got cut off somehow, but I'm back for now.
That's good. At least we got that answer in. Thank you. Any other council questions? Councilor?
That was my question.
Any questions? Anybody else with any questions? And I know I had the opportunity with Councilor Diamond to sit through Sylvie's presentation on the whole process. And my only question that I have, Paul, and I think I probably raised it at our little session the other day, but with the amount of money that's being put on the table for emergency, like for the ER funding, which is over $700,000 a year, just for Bingham, for the two doctors to split. And how do you, like, I know that's a big part in of their incomes, but how, like, what kind of a package along with that and the provincial package that's already available? I mean, how much would it actually take to actually incentivize that opportunity again? I hate to be a devil's advocate, but I have a hard time understanding why, whatever amount of money we could ever come up with would be enough to entice anybody here, other than some of the things that you pointed out earlier, you know, about offering a better place to live.
So again, it's really a matter of understanding that regardless of the money they're going to make, so whether they're working in primary care, emerge, or both, because those are all funded very differently, what your physicians are currently looking for are in fact the incentive packages. So if we go to the recruitment fair and Cochrane's offering an incentive package, Iroquois Falls is offering an incentive package, and Matheson has nothing to add to the table except for, well, this is how much you're going to make, you're just not going to be in the running. So it is a very competitive arena. I understand it's difficult to wrap our minds around the salaries that they do make, but that is the reality of what we're living. So we really want Matheson to have doctors. They desperately need the doctors. You're on a very bad patch of highway, so you do get some pretty severe accidents there. And without the doctors, we simply won't have a hospital at one point or another. So yes, the incentive packages are important. What you decide to look at can vary. I know that definitely subsidized housing, subsidized office, travel incentives, all of those types of things help. And again, it's not a cookie cutter approach. It really depends on the physician that you're basically negotiating with to bring them in. But to have some sort of package. I will be going to Niagara Falls in April. I'm spending 3 days at the Society of Rural Physicians of Canada. There's almost 800 to 1,000 doctors walking around that conference for those 3 days. I really would love to be able to talk to them about Matheson and talk to them about what you guys have to offer.
Okay, thank you very much, Sylvie. It didn't satisfy all of my questions, but at least you answered it. Thank you. And Councillor Drew has a question.
Through your worship, how much monetary are you looking at from the township? Money.
Well, as I mentioned, our ER incentive package is up to 100,000 per year. So you're looking at something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other councillors with questions? No other questions?
So
Chris?
can I just elaborate on that one? So, it depends on the primary care physician. So, the hospital has been subsidizing the office downstairs in Bingham. So that wouldn't be part of the equation for the town to contribute, but, they're looking for a signing bonus. They're looking for housing. We only have 2 houses. Both are used for locums. So, they may be looking for a housing subsidy and a few other things. So, but, probably the best case scenario is about 100,000 per year.
Well, at least it's a number that everybody can think about anyway. That's a good. Is there any other councillor with any questions? No other questions, Chris? No, I'm good. Okay, well then, is there anything else that Paul, you or Ozzy or Sylvie would like to, or you satisfied with that? For now, and then council will review this during our budgetary sessions that are up and coming and aren't going to be that funny to begin with, but anyway, that's another story for us to deal with. And then we can give you some kind of response at least.
No, I just leave it with you, but it's very competitive. It's competitive out there, and it's in the news every day, right? So, but I think the more competitive we are in terms of incentive, and again, what I said in my opening statement, I think the town of Matheson deserves better, and so I'll leave it with you. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
That's definitely one area we can definitely agree on. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, good night. Thanks, everybody.
We'll have further discussion on that, I'm sure, during our budgetary session. So at least now we have some information to work with. Guess we're moving into new business. Oh, we're going to take it.
We can proceed, and if we can't answer, we'll just take a small recess.
Yeah, we'll proceed until Chris comes back, and if we can handle it without Chris, we'll do it. Anyway, the next item is item 7A under new business of Councillor Rondo. Something regarding yearly household safety inspections and fire department informational. Councillor Rondo, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we know, the Hall Fire Department was closed, I think approximately 2013, I'm not sure. Was I right? Wow, my brain's still working, okay. And after the last fire that we had last winter, we lost 2 family homes. I called Ontario Fire Marshal within that first week after working. And I had a lengthy, very informative conversation with him. And I come to learn that even though our fire department has been closed, it is the responsibility and fire marshal law that all remaining responding fire departments are responsible to conduct yearly fire household inspections for CO2 monitors, fire alarms, and whatnot. This has not been done in several years. And it's unacceptable because it is fire marshal law. As a result, some of these residents are installing and operating uninspected wood stoves, sealing all exterior windows inside and out, and moving into dwellings that should be deemed condemned, but they're not because nothing's being inspected. So what I asked from council and mayor, that we put into consideration that these inspections and enforcement that we mandated, it is fire marshal law, it has to be. That we enforce that it be done. Because I can test, I've been living in a fire, there has not, my house hasn't been inspected in years. For a fire alarm or anything else. So I'm asking the council to pass a motion that we enforce the fire brigades to come and do these inspections every year as they are law.
And just my first comment is I agree with you that this needs to happen. The only comment I have along with that is when your initial question was asked, the fire chief came back with a response, and I'm sure it probably wasn't 100% satisfactory to you. But I also understand the restrictions that he's dealing with, and that's something we have to consider as a council. That we don't have enough volunteer firefighters in any of the brigades right at the moment we're short. Second of all, the demands on their time for extra training and so on and so forth by the province got to the point where a lot of them don't even want to be volunteer firefighters anymore. And I think you can attest to that because you were once one.
I was a firefighter for Sudbury for 4 years, and I was for 2 years in VRM.
And I would really like to find a way that we can incentivize the volunteers from all the other brigades to do more of these inspections, because I read his report and it sounds like they have a cycle going on. Am I correct, Chris? They have a cycle. They have a cycle where they're, and Dave would probably be more knowledgeable about it than anybody, but they actually do a rotation where they check so many houses per year. And I don't know if they're following that to any degree. Captain Diamond, would you be able to answer that?
Yes, your mayor, we try and do urban and rural every other year. But obviously, because a lot of us have full-time, or all of us have full-time jobs, by the time two firemen get together, or fire people get together, we can only do a street in the night, and that's pushing it, right? So that's one street urban wise. So if we're talking rural and all the constant driving, I find it difficult that we can't hit every home. A lot of our residents don't want us in there. My impression is that I've been volunteering, so people will shut the door, they'll even speak profanities at and stuff like that. Some people are in construction, they don't want you seeing
what they're doing.
Seeing what they're doing, they're afraid of the tax to go up. But in terms of inspecting the chimneys and wood stoves, we're not certified. That's something that we cannot do. So
we need to be wet certified.
Right now we have to become certified for the fire department. We have to do 26 chapters of book that were 4 inches thick. And I think only 2 of our firemen have completed that certification, because it's a long process. So any more certification, one, we're going to lose people, and second of all, by the time we get certified, we're going to be uncertified because we're 2 years, 3 years down the road. So it'd be a big undertaking, I would suggest.
The thing is, it is fire marshal law that all houses be inspected yearly. So whether we have the manpower or not, even when I was in the Chelmsford Fire Department, there was only 13 of us. And we covered the whole town of Chelmsford within a week. We had that one specific week, and that's what we did. We branched out and we did every house. Like Dave said, yes, some of them will refuse. Some of them won't, and you're gonna find, oh my God, some stuff. But it has to be done. It has to be done. It's just people, I guarantee you, over half of the houses in Waltham probably have no CO2 monitors, probably have no fire alarms. I understand the whole wood stove thing, but because nothing's being inspected, people know they're not going to be inspected, so they're doing these things with wood stoves And sealing windows that we shouldn't be sealing and doing this and that. The fact that it's fire marshal law, it's time to troubleshoot, it has to be enforced. It has to be enforced, like it's just, I'm sorry, like. I have enough experience with firefighters, it has to be enforced and it can be done. We can't do a couple of streets in rural 1 year and then a couple of streets in town next year. We can't do that, you'll never catch up. You'll never catch up, ever.
Yeah.
So I understand Haltar because there's no more firefighters in there. That it takes, that they'll have to plan out and take 2 from this brigade, 2 from that brigade, and 2 from that brigade, tackle Haltar over 2 days. There's only so many houses, it should take more than 2 days to go through it. So it has to be, in my opinion, and it's just, yeah,
And,
for 10 years in one section, it's unacceptable.
okay, thank you, Councilor Gunn. Sorry, Councilor Ryan. Sorry, Councilor Gallery. I like, it used to be I call you Councilor Rondo, now I'm calling her Councilor Gallery. I'll definitely allow council their own opinions on this. I just wanted one quick question again to Councilor Bannon, since he's a firefighter and knows it. And it was a question that I think that I've asked before, but like right now, the volunteer fire department works on a point system, and the point system is based on bleeding and fires and vehicle accidents and all that sort of thing. Is there any part of the point system that addresses any of these inspections?
Yeah,
Is that part of it?
Yeah, it is part of it. Part of the point system.
I can't honestly say, I don't know what could voluntarily work. We do food drives, we do, visits from the library, stuff like that, that's all voluntary, and so I'm not sure how the point is, that would be a question for the chief.
When I was a former firefighter, those inspections were part of the point system. It is part, it's not voluntary, it's part of that point system. when they do them.
And even adding it to the point system brings up the next question is there, because once you add more points, or the points, it waters down the system, so that the point value goes down. So then does it become one of those things where nobody wants to show up to a fire because these are sure points going down. I mean, I know there's no simple solution to this, and I definitely feel your concerns and pain. Is there anybody else in council have a question regarding this or comment? I'm shocked. Councilor Martin.
Through your worship, I have no idea how the fire thing works, but I'm just wondering. Off-duty firefighters from other communities, would they be interested in
But it is their responsibility.
doing that? Like, I mean, from Brickell Falls.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Timmins or whatever. Yeah, it would cost us money for sure, but we'd get it done if it's absolute.
Yes, Chris.
Haven't heard it around the table, but there is the opportunity of home self-inspections. City of Kingston has a process.
What was
Go
that?
online, home self-inspections. You go online, you select the yes and no questions, you have to put your name in there and your address. Okay, so if you have a hybrid system between home self-inspections and then those of the forms, it's by the fire chief, and that's gonna cut down on your number of inspections. These can be tracked through our GIS system, so we'll know, and we'll be able to put log all that information in. Kingston is not the only place that does it, there's some other places that do it as well. Kingston is a city that has a large rural area as well, so if they can do it, we can do that. It's just offering one potential.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that input. Yes, Councilor Long.
It's a good idea, but if they're doing a self-inspection, how reliable is that?
Yeah, but they're filling in their names, so.
Yeah, even if they're filling their names, you still, then I can say, fill in my name, my address, and say, yeah, I have 2 smoke alarms, 1 on each floor, I have a CO2 monitor, everything's up to code, when it's not.
And if your house burns down, if something happens, then you're liable for lying, right? So-
Yeah, I don't think it'll work for Haltar myself, but
Well, my only last comment on this particular issue is that it's definitely been brought to the council's attention and it's been brought to staff's attention. And I think there's actually been a couple of good suggestions there, but just to say, and not to cut everything off, but I think we could probably spend a pile of time and come to a resolution. So thank you very much for that, Councilor Rondo. And I would suggest that we just move along if that's okay with the rest of council. And the next item again, Besides that, I didn't want council London to run out of steam. The next item is under new business, again, it's 7B, is council Rondo regarding quarterly all brigade water shuttle practice.
Okay, so again, the same fire we had last winter resulted in 2 dwellings. I was in attendance at that fire, had several videos, along with few other retired firefighters who watched this as well. Water shuttle was being done from Hall Tire to Maud Lake. Hall Tire has a fully functioning fire hydrant on Edward Street. We have the water treatment plant that was built and designed with an extra water reservoir tank, specifically used to fill up the trucks. It has hookups on the outside of the building, and we have a huge creek that runs the whole length of Euclid Street. There was absolutely zero excuse or reason to shuttle all the way to the Raymore. Being a former firefighter with experience, it takes 15 minutes from Hall Tire to the Raymore with that truck. It takes another 10 to 15 minutes to fill it, and it takes another 15 minutes to come back. It takes 5 to 7 minutes with 2 hoses running on a quarter tank to drain that clean. See where the issue is here? So because we're having, when we had a fire department in Hall Tire, the fire department in Hall Tire would take lead in any other, Matheson would take lead if it was a house fire in Matheson, Belmont, and so on. Firefighters in Hall Tire knew where to do these shuttles. So this is why I'm requesting that there be 4 times a year an all brigade practice for water shuttle in Hall Tire. So all brigades are familiar on all 3 places to do their water shuttle with. So this mistake does not happen again, because it would go half an hour, more than half an hour, before that tank would get filled up again after it's been emptied out within 5 minutes. So this house and all the houses on Hall Tire, 90% of them are old. They're from the time when the mine opened. Some are, it's still insulated with sawdust. It takes 3 minutes for a house to fully get it out. So if you're shuttling all over the Raymore and coming back, it's pointless. You're fighting a losing battle. When there was a creek last fire, the creek was literally 20 feet away from the house. There was no reason. And then down the road to the house that on that same street, there's a water treatment plant, and then 2 blocks over there's the one on, there was no reason. So what I'm asking and requesting is that we place maybe a motion that all brigades have 4 times a year water shuttle practices done in Hall Tire. And with a positive on that, the townspeople are going to see the fire departments doing practices there. It will ease their stress knowing that they're actually practicing to do this stuff, and their presence will be showing them that they're not forgotten. Because right now the town is feeling ignored when it comes to this stuff, completely ignored. We lost 2 dwellings last winter, and only 1 should have been lost, not 2. Because of all of this. So this is my request.
Councilor Rondo, I thank you very much for your concerns and your request. My own suggestion, I don't know how council feels, but before we go to a motion or resolution, I would like this information or suggestions passed along to the fire chief. And because I believe that's where really my own feelings are, and I don't want to speak on behalf of council. I'd like council to comment themselves. My own feeling is we do have a fire chief, and these concerns should be redirected to the fire chief and allow him to respond and give us some answers to this in more of a, I think that would be a more professional approach personally.
Absolutely.
Any other councilors have comments? All right. Anyway, Councilor Rondo, thank you very much for that. And that's going to be, at the very least, we can do that without doing the resolution or motion. And I ask staff that we at least pass along the concerns to the fire chief, please.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item we have is item 8A under reports, and Councilor Dattery has a verbal update on the park. Can I help you? What did I miss one?
You skipped one.
Oh, sorry. I missed Councilor Dattery with her first one. Sorry. I've got councilors that are busy tonight. Councilor Dattery had something to comment about the Valdani Road.
Yes. I've received complaints about the road, the Valgonia Road, because they removed the surface on it and it wasn't resurfaced. So right now it's very dusty, or maybe not right now, but in the warmer months, And, I know that repairs were approved last year. I was just wondering, what's going on with that?
I'd like to just turn that question over to Chris, because Chris probably knows what's going on with, or at least what was discussed in the background.
So the direction that staff was given by the last council was to pay, the first thing to do was the engineering, and we spent about $340,000 in engineering for that, yeah. That was full.
Yes,
So we've done all the engineering.
sorry, Chris, we're 85% done the engineering.
So we have done no inspections on the culverts along the road at all, which is a concern, because if you're gonna fix the road, why wouldn't you make sure the culverts are proper first? The further direction was that that road was gonna be hard surfaced, which is the basis upon which the engineering was done. So the estimated hard surfacing cost on that road is $13 million. On the above, I mean, on the two. Yeah. So, and that, from my perspective, that's probably untenable. And so my feeling is that we need to go back to the engineering firm and we need to ask them for what the alternatives are from doing asphalt. There's chip and seal, which is better than gravel. It costs a little bit more, but lasts longer. Then there's straight gravel, which takes me to your point about taking out the hard surface last year. That was done intentionally in order to provide better fitness on the road. So in as much as people aren't really happy with it right now, it's a matter of following it to the end to make sure you get this done. So the other thing that council needs to consider is when Airport Falls closed the bridge, that caused an increase in traffic across the road. And at one point I had suggested to the former mayor that he talked to the mayor of Airport Falls was sharing some costs because it does damage our roads. The other thing is the heavy resource trucks. They have better the road, and that's a really unfortunate thing as well. So it's not that we're not going to do anything about it. I think it's got to be discussed as we move forward in the strategic plan and in the budget. Sandra will tell you that if we just simply discount the engineering costs or the engineering plan and do another one, well, we pay for that through gas tax money. So that's not a good sense of money. I would prefer to go back to the plan and alter it with some options for that road.
Yes, Councilor Good.
Through your worship, Chris, can we not do what Timmins is doing with, like you said, the commercial vehicles, have them pay a little extra tax, like have them, because in Timmins, I know the CMVs have, any of the businesses have to pay an extra amount for road tax, for road repair, you know, and so on and so forth. Can we not implement that here in Black River?
So who are they paying that to?
Right straight to the city?
For the licenses that are issued by the province.
Yes, but I know two of the companies that they automatically pay.
Well, I certainly look into that for sure. And the other thing is to, and this goes to bylaw enforcement as well, when we put half loads on it.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even pay attention, maybe sort of good anyways, and in some cases, depending on who you are, you know, they phone there, whatever.
Yep.
There, but from there, and you know, that whole thing happens there, so. There's a lot of variables in there, Councilor Drewer, but I would be more than willing to look into. That's very interesting what you said there. Now, I will also tell you that last year, the province of Ontario established the Nordics Fund, which is the Northern Ontario Road Development. I don't know. So anyways, it's about what it is we're getting money from the province of Ontario for resource extraction. So whether that's minerals or forestry. And they have, not how they calculate that, we get $203,000 a year. And that money was provided to municipalities who do have resource trucks on their roads. So there's a little bit of money there too. The other way that money comes is when there is a gravel pit. And the gravel pit, there are some of the royalties that are paid by those companies. And we're supposed to get a cut of that, not that number, but it's not very much. So you can see how there's a lot of variables there. And roadways are our most expensive set, and we have to come up with some. So I'll look into that for you, for sure.
Thank you, Councilor Brewer, thank you very much, Chris. Yes, Councilor Martin.
Through your worship to Chris again. That little stretch of road from 101 to the town of Algonquin. Is that ever gonna be done? Like that's, or it's,
That's the one.
No,
you know,
he's just on a little reshire, excuse me, I just wanted to.
from Gates Garage
Yeah.
to the town.
Oh, yeah. That's also
It's
about
just-
the neighborhood.
Like they did from 101 to 11, perfect, good. But they left that little stretch there from Gates Garage to town.
There was a complicated factor there. There's something about it. I can't remember the company.
There was a beaver dam there at one time.
You're right, Chris, and I don't remember the complication.
Yeah, there was a complication there, Councilor DeMarchi. It would have its way in the estimate. Probably not.
It just needs to be ground up like the rest of them.
So we could rip the hard top off of it.
Yeah.
Put gravel down and it wouldn't be easy to travel for sure. We can certainly do that in the spring. That's not a problem at all. Do that with our own folks.
Yeah, right on.
My only other comment along with that, as rough as that section is, at least now it's hard top and it's not dusty and it's rough, but at least it's paved. And I mean, and it's just a comment to council, I don't want to continue this on because we should be moving on. But in regards to that, I also had a complaint from one of the residents on that road just yesterday and had a discussion. That individual used to work in that business, the NPO business. And his suggestion also was along the lines of what Chris had mentioned about going back to the engineering company. Like, obviously drainage is the first thing that has to happen on a road, even I know that, which means ditching and culverts. But I mean, as far as the surface, it doesn't have to be hard top like regular asphalt. It can be the chip and seal or pole mix or whatever you want to call it. And that will put, and which is what was there before it was ripped
Yes.
up. But what was there was so damaged it was irreparable. So that's why, I know that's why the last term they did what they did. And obviously it didn't solve all the problems. It was a start of solving the problems. And I think your concerns was all more. And I actually told the gentleman when I was talking to him that we would definitely be looking into a solution with no guarantee of when. And he was at least satisfied with that, Councilor Gabbard.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for bringing it to our attention. And I know the next item you have a verbal, I believe the next item is your item. We're going into item 8A, under reports. Now, we think Councilor Gabbard has an update on Franklin Elkin.
I'll be brief. We had a finance committee meeting on February 21st. It was about the budget for the Franklin Health Unit. Basically, the cost sharing portion of it, the government reduced their funding from 75% to 70%, which means we're picking up the increase of about 5%. The budget is set on a per capita rate for each municipality, and they use the impact numbers. Municipal funding has been increased by $138,422. This represents a 5% increase in levy from 46.17. No, to 46.17 from 43.97. The individual levy per community varies a little bit from the 5% because of the impact numbers. For us, our cost in 2022 was $98,493. Our cost for 2003 will be $103,421. And just to note that what we pay for, it's all mandatory programs.
Well, thank you very much for that. It's nice to see you attending meetings like that and bringing the information back to the general council. Thank you. Is there any questions for Councilor Gadri on that? Well, then we'll just move on. Thank you very much for your report. Appreciate it. Item 9A, which is under bylaws. And I know our clerk treasurer needs a mover and a seconder again. Councilor Brewer and Councilor Gadri.
Moved by Councillor Drury, seconded by Councillor Gattari, that bylaw number 2023-18 being a bylaw to provide for the appointment of a committee of adjustment be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 14th day of March 2023.
Any further questions regarding the motion? Yes, Councilor.
Three words. I thought we were squashing this committee of adjustments. I thought that was going by the wayside.
Committee adjustments are mandatory. It's quasi judicial. It's the planning committee that we're going forward into.
Okay.
And we haven't done that yet.
Is it still in the middle?
Pardon me?
Is it still in the middle?
Yeah, absolutely. What we have to do, we've got to change the terms of reference. To committee of adjustment. So,
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Any no further questions? I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor of the motion? Seeing no objections, carried. And we're going to item B. We've got another motion here. I mean, mover and a seconder. I can see Councilor DeMarchi and Councilor Rondo.
Moved by Councillor DeMarchi, seconded by Councillor Rondo, that bylaw number 2023-19 being a bylaw to provide for the appointment of a planning advisory committee be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 14th day of March 2023.
Questions or concerns from mover or seconder? Seeing that, nothing from any other member of council, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. And item C, we've got another bylaw here. Looks pretty familiar. Must be our third reading of the item that we've been discussing in the last couple of meetings. Mover to seconder again, please. Councilor DeMarchi and Councilor Gatter.
Moved by Councillor DeMarchi, seconded by Councillor Gatter, that bylaw number 2023-11 being a bylaw of the Corporation of the Township of Black River Matheson to provide for drainage works in the Township of Black River Matheson, known as Vinny Ridge Drain, be read a third time and finally passed this 14th day of March 2023.
Finishing of the housekeeping.
Yes. For that.
No questions or further concerns? All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried.
Get it done.
Finally done. True. And we're moving into item 10A under unfinished business. We have an item regarding the one we brought up from the discussion of the last meeting, regular council meeting schedule revision. I'm sure everybody's got to look at that report.
Yes,
Yeah.
Our actual schedule is not right. It still says, we're meeting at the public library.
Another housekeeping item.
Sorry.
Can I get, no, thank you, Councilor Gunter. Can I move her to seconder, Councilor Brewer and Councilor Long? Just shaking up. They even let you read the motion.
Yes, so sorry, Mr. Mayor, it was moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor Rondo. That council revise the 2023 council meeting schedule with dates for meetings to be held at the following community halls. In Shillington on May 9th, in Raymore and Wooltire on September 12th, and in Balgony on November 14th.
Yes, ma'am.
So staff just recommended dates for each quarter. I don't know if the halls will be available for these dates. I was not going to call to find out that council didn't like these dates in the first place. So should council accept these dates tonight, this is pending that the halls were available on these days.
Good. Any other comments regarding this?
Then you check it.
Can we read this, that's all? Yes. Sorry for that, council, I just couldn't help a little bit of human life, just to count to the marketing expense.
We paid your insurance already.
Anyway, if there's no other questions or concerns, I'll make some comments after we pass the motion, but all those in favor of the motion? Seeing no objections, carried. I was just gonna comment, I mentioned to the clerk earlier tonight that I was just gonna comment, if we get the kind of response that we're actually hoping we might get, in other words, people actually attending these meetings, then I would suggest that we either reward one of those areas that does very, very well and have another meeting in that area. And or another idea also is that we actually have another public council meeting in one of our halls here in town for the mouth scenario also. But that's just something we can look at down the road.
We always put on coffee and cookies.
For a price.
Okay, well, thank you. It looks like we're gonna have counselors are gonna outbid for that privilege. But anyway, it was just a comment that I would like council to consider for after we see how things get sorted out here and work out. But I am very happy that we've actually decided to actually go to the other outlying communities and give their residents an opportunity for us to travel to them instead of them traveling to us, which we will find out if it's successful. I know in the past it used to be, we'll see where it goes. Thank you, Council. And other business, 11A is regarding the Conference South Veterinary Service Committee. We move in a seconder again, I guess. I got Councilor Demarkey and Councilor Drewer fast as well.
Moved by Councilor Demarkey, seconded by Councilor Drewer, that the following member of council be appointed to the Cochrane South Veterinary Service Committee.
Do we have a volunteer?
He's not here.
Okay, Councilor Rondo is volunteering. I love it. All right. You go ahead and make the motion and stand now, Madam Clerk.
Again, moved by Councilor Demarkey, seconded by Councilor Drewer, that the following member of council be appointed to the Cochrane South Veterinary Service Committee, Councilor Rondo.
Thank you very much, Councilor Rondo, and council, all those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Am I correct? And some of those things that Mary clearly put down. I seen something, I don't know if it was on Facebook or someplace, it was looking for a veterinarian. Something like all that. I know it was something to do with even for the large animals, which is good. How am I supposed to keep the car meeting? It's a long way from
We are a good service.
Yeah, any kind of service is good.
Mhm.
When I was in Walmart back there, he had a big giant one that came from that. And you go inside and it's like. It's really good, so. Hopefully someone was opening up this people.
The only thing that I had seen is I had seen something online looking for a veterinarian assistant.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did too.
yes.
Which is the question. Thank you very much. And the last item we had was item B, was regarding the town of Coburg. We have another motion. In another mover and a seconder, I got Councilor Brewer and Councilor Gatter.
Moved by Councilor Drewer, seconded by Councilor Gattery, that council supports resolution number 45-23 passed by the town of Coburg Council, acknowledging homelessness as a crisis and the request for immediate action from the province of Ontario on this matter. And that staff forward this resolution to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honorable Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and AMO.
All those in favor of the resolution? Seeing no objections, carried. Thank you.
Carry on.
And I believe now we're going to get into a portion of the meeting that's going to be closed to the public. So our live streaming will end and we'll move along. We have I need a mover and a seconder to move into close. I got Councilor DeMarchi and Councilor Rondo.
Moved by Councilor DeMarchi, seconded by Councilor Rondo. That council now comes into a portion of the meeting that shall be closed to the public at 8:05 PM in accordance with section 239 subsection 2 of the Municipal Act. In order to discuss a personal matter about an identifiable individual regarding closed meeting protocol and section 239 subsection 2 clause I and clause 3.1 to discuss financial information, financial education training regarding the 2023 budget position.
All those in favor of the resolution,